So there, dude, you should be able to see this now, Luke, on the Better Man page,
Cool.
streaming live, and then you can stream it to your guys listening on your end.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Nice. Yes. So do I just click share? Share the
You
link. Yeah.
share, yeah, your guys will be able to see that.
Nice. Amazing.
Cool.
Let's let the cat out. 1 second.
Oh,
Chloe, come on.
there's prep for you.
Who you get? Come on. Who you get? Chloe. Get out.
Luke's letting his cat out, by the way, for anyone listening.
Yeah. Yeah, the cat will just be scratching all kinds. That was a hidden cat. I thought I'd got all the cats out this room.
Oh, I didn't know you were a father of 3 cats. That's
Yes,
something.
it's father of 3 lovely daughters. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was on your IG profile earlier doing a bit of research, and yeah, we've got a fair bit in common, dude. You know, we're both similar ages. We're both into our business and our self-development. We both love our weights. We both love our metal music. But cats, mate, is something that I don't share your love for.
Yeah, well, I think it's a love-hate thing. To be fair, like cat people are just cat people, and that's it. Like,
I just don't get them, mate. I know it sounds. I just don't understand them. I don't get the love off them. I just don't understand them like I do dogs. Dogs, yeah, all day long. But cats, yeah.
I love them all, mate. But you just haven't met the right cat, man. You just haven't
possibly. Yeah. Possibly. I've had some bad experiences with cats. I remember moving into my friend's place, and it was a room up in the attic, and the cats. As soon as I moved in, the cats were scratching the door all night, which did my head in. And then when I wasn't there, they'd come in the bedroom and shit in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, dirty bastards.
Past experiences lead to the future traumas, eh?
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us, man. Let's talk about your book. Let's go straight in, Supercharged, because I think this will cover a whole different variety of topics. You know, especially around what I do: men's mental health, men's performance, getting the best out of life, and the challenges that we're going to run into during our existence. So yeah, firstly, like what is Supercharged about? Because I love the title; it sounds pretty exciting. So yeah, what's Supercharged about?
Yeah, cool. So the book itself is about life in general, how to supercharge your life, how to overcome negative emotions, how to get a handle on your energy, your health. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would kind of say that if you imagine on a 1 to 10 scale, your life and your energy, 1 and 0 being absolute dog shit, low, depressed, that kind of energy, 8, 9, and 10 being supercharged, being like on a high, knowing your purpose, hitting each day with as much as you can. That's kind of a supercharged life, and how to get your energy and your health up to an 8, 9, and 10 out of 10, physically, mentally, and emotionally as well. We're talking like from a whole rounded perspective.
Sure, man. So when we look at improving life, where is it traditionally that you start with a guy? So when life's pretty shit, like there's a lot going on, isn't there? Often, from financial to relationships to the physical body's probably been kind of, neglected and so on. Like, where do you start when someone's like, I want to change my life, but it's fucked right now? Like, where's the best place for you to start?
Yeah, I think initially listen to what the problem is, what the issue is. I find that majority of the time, not all of the time, but the majority of the time, they don't have a handle on their physical body. And as we know, mental health needs physical support. So being a fitness coach for 9+ years now, I always start with the body. I say, look, get a handle on physically what you can do. Get yourself in state, get your body primed to move. Because as soon as you're moving, like yourself, when you're in a training session that is challenging, that is tough, where your body and mind are switched on, you're not fearing over the past, you're not depressed or worried, you're not anxious over the future, you're completely present. So that's my whole philosophy straight away, is do as many things as you can that make you present. There's loads of things you can do: meditation, journaling, studying. We're completely present when we're immersed in a film, for example, that we're totally engrossed in, and we're into the story and we're emotionally invested. But exercise is one of those things which is, as we know, the most underutilized antidepressant, the most underutilized tool for helping your physical and mental health. So I would usually tell people, or should I say guide people, into getting a handle on their physical body first. That's where I would usually start, mate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you've just said, there's so much that you could do. But even if we just took physical health for a moment, like if you look at what you could do with physical health, even that could be an overwhelm to a lot of people. So, I mean, let's think between us now. Like, you could hit steps, you could start going to the gym, you could start tracking calories, you could start drinking water, You can start getting up at the same time every morning so that you make sure you do your bit of exercise. There's probably 50 things that you could do there. And even I find some of the guys, they don't even know where to start with that. So even in the physical body, it's keeping it so simple, isn't it? But again, the opposite of overwhelm is underwhelm as well. So if you don't have enough to challenge you, then you often find reasons, motivation hard to come by. So it's a hard balance, man, for a guy starting out on this journey. The good news is though, dude, if you're a new guy listening to this and everything's fucked, like you'll see progress pretty quickly if you stick with it, won't you? Like, if you're 20 stone or 15 stone or completely out of shape, takes what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before you start to notice maybe visibly a little bit of change.
I've had people when they start my fitness training, I've had people lose like 9 pounds in a week in their first week. Of these people who are like 15, 16 stone, and they've been struggling like that for years. But obviously, a lot of it's water weight, and it's a change of a severe calorie deficit compared to what they're used to. So they're going to quickly lose weight. But then it's handling and navigating the emotions along the journey, where it's like people get overexcited at the start, and you'll know this. People are all in at the start. They're doing something new. Maybe it's Monday, it's New Year. That's why gyms are packed in January. And then it comes on, they get like £9 off, for example, in the first week. Then the next week, it's £4. Then the next week, they lose no weight and think, oh, well, it's not working anymore. Oh, I wonder what's going to keep this going. And they have this expectation that that's the way it's going to work. When in reality, that's not the way it works. You're going to come up some days, you're going to stay the same, you'll come down. The journey is turbulent, isn't it? It's not linear.
So even I don't know what it's going to be. I've got no idea what it's going to be like for any of my clients, and trying to explain that to a new client, because obviously there's certain certainty you can offer them, but the only real certainty you can offer somebody is, look, stick with this and you'll figure it out. But yeah, there's a new guy who's just signed up with me, and he's a great lad, really great lad, but he's fixated on fixing everything now. Like, he wants the linear progress. Every day I want to lose a little bit of weight on that weighing scales. If I'm not, this is too hard. It's not going well. And what should I do, Alex? I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out, man. This isn't Weight Watchers. This isn't any of that stuff. Yeah. It's a long, long game, man. And we both know, you go for a shit and you're going to weigh a couple of pounds lighter. You drink a litre of water, you're going to weigh a little bit more. So it's crazy. Yeah, right. So I always call week 3 in my program, Luke, I always call it danger week, because the motivation then, it's not so exciting anymore after 3 weeks. You might be aching a little bit. You might be a little bit tired. You might not see the progress that you've just kind of explained. Yeah, it never goes to plan. Yeah, most of our job, dude, is handling expectations, isn't it?
That's it. And I think a good thing that you've mentioned there is, like, people get so excited at the start, but the trust dwindles very quickly in the process. I've got the words behind it. That's part of where we go. Yeah, it's part of my mantra: trust in the process. Like, trust in the process and get excited for the day. Like, what one thing can I do today that would make me at least moderately excited? But the problem is we have these expectations, like you said, your client, with the scales must move. That's one point of data. That's one tiny thing that won't always go to plan, won't always go as expected. And I think when you're fixed on just one or two things, and you're not malleable in terms of looking at different ways of measuring progress, there's a lot of emotions come from there in terms of, it's not working, it's not for me, it's not my thing. And that's a lack of trust. The process is, like we say, full of ups and downs, full of highs and lows, full of stops and starts, full of, ebbs and flows, swings and roundabouts, as they say. It's full of that. But the problem is that when we only focus on one thing to measure, like weight, for example, which that's a lot of people's thing, isn't it? Some people it's not. Some people it's strength, it's whatever. But I think another thing to point out there is, I always tell people, Alex, look, rather than how you look, rather than how things are expected to be, how do you actually feel at the end of the work? Like, take training, for example, physical exercise. It makes you feel good at the end, right? That's what we need to be chasing, is more of that feeling, rather than things needing to be a certain way on the scales or a certain measurement or whatever. Say, look, chase the feeling, chase feeling good, and then you'll trust in the process more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. The problem with that is often the feelings don't come till later down the line. So let's face it, dude. How many sessions have we attacked where we don't feel like doing it, or we don't even enjoy it whilst we're doing it? And even after, you probably wiped for a couple of hours and so on. So those good feelings that people are chasing. In fact, that's probably why a lot of guys have got themselves into the position that they're in, because they've been chasing satisfying feelings for a long time. So chocolate cake, beer, too much TV. It's quite satisfying in the moment. So like, I agree with you, and we both know that exercising makes you feel fucking great. But I think there's an element of understanding that yeah, this short-term sacrifice. I mean, this is what discipline is, Luke, really, isn't it? It's like this short-term sacrifice of going to the gym is later on going to offer me the life that I said I wanted when I joined your program, kind of attitude. But that you've said a couple of interesting words there, like with trusting the process. I'm totally on board with that. The problem is the process can get so easily thrown off course because there's so many processes out there that I almost want to say to any guy that joins my program, and I don't know whether you feel the same, is like, just for a while, just shut off any other information. Like, stop scouting Instagram for a bit. Stop going on YouTube videos just for a little bit. Stop looking for new information. Just do this. Because some people think like a little bit of benching, a little bit of squat, like, oh, I must have to do more than that. There must be something more. There must be something fancy or some crazy exercise that I have to do. And I'm like, no, man. Just slowly concentrate on getting a tiny bit stronger each week. Get your movement in, improve your diet a little bit each week. But it's so not exciting, dude. The results we know are coming, but to convince the guy in the program, just stay with it. Because 12 weeks down the line, boom, you're going to be in a good place, man.
I find it's very difficult to get people to trust in the simple things. Like, get people to trust in just showing up, moving the body to a sweat. If you're lifting weights, get to trust in a bench, squat, deadlift, whatever it may be. A few things that are really beneficial that are going to make you feel good, give you progress. But then there's always what they've seen someone else doing in amazing shape, on Instagram and doing all these crazy backflips or crazy stuff with that core or calisthenics. And they've been doing it 20 years. They've been doing it 3 hours a day for 20 years. And like, average people can't relate to that. But they're thinking, ooh, if I do that, I'll end up like him. And it's mad because trying to sell simple is not very sexy. And that's a problem that we've had before, right? Is trying to sell simple stuff. But it doesn't sound sexy. Like, look, you need to be disciplined every day. You need to turn up and sweat and be uncomfortable every day. You just need to start eating more vegetables, drink more water, get higher protein in your diet, get to bed an hour earlier. It's not sexy. It's not easy to sell. People are like, oh, well, there must be something really exciting, or, because of what they see online or what they get promoted by other people who've done a crash diet or something that was quite new and outrageous. And that our eyes are distracted everywhere now, right? The amount of information, it's overwhelming, it's overload. So one thing comes and it works, and we hear about the next thing or the quicker thing or the best thing or the thing that your mate's doing and they had better results than you. And then you look at the next celebrity diet or whatever it is. It's overwhelming. Like, pick one thing and stick with it. But that's hard to do. But what's easy to do makes life harder. What's harder to do makes life easier, right?
Sure. I think people go on that hunt for motivation, and you find that in new things, don't you? So I get it. Like, I get why you'd want to start a new program because, yeah, this guy's probably receiving even more than Alex. This guy's saying I can do even better than what Luke's telling me I can do. Yeah. And like, this is the problem with we've got in sales and marketing. So we need to make our program sound like sexy, because the results are like long term down the line. We both know, but when it's a case of selling the process, it's a difficult sell. But this is the good thing. We've worked with hundreds of men now that have been through that process. This is why. But again, even that's hard to do, because if you think what me and you will do as business owners, we will post out our best results. Of course we will.
Yes.
And they look epic, and they are fucking epic. But if we broke that down day by day, and we posted a picture of the person out every single day, you wouldn't even notice any change, And yeah, they've drunk their water. Yeah, they've lifted the weights. Yeah, they've got their steps in. It's dull as fuck.
Yeah, it is. And I think what's hard as well, Alex, is the majority of my results actually are not physical results. Even though I do physical training, the majority of my results are mental health related. And that's hard to show a picture of that. Yeah, you can show somebody smiling, but people judge with their eyes immediately, just what they see, not what they know to be true. It's just what I view straight away, and they'll judge instantly. That's where we are wired, right? To portray a mental transformation through physical exercise is very difficult to do. And I find that that's difficult, but ultimately that's the biggest result, isn't it? Because it's not really the losing the weight that makes them happy. It's the way that makes them feel. So it's a mental transformation, really, isn't it? Rather than just, I lost this weight and I'm happy because of it. No, what you've created, who you've became in that process of the work that you've done, the sacrifice, the discipline that you've applied, the man that you're becoming because of that discipline, that's what's making you happy, not the fact that you're a stone or two lighter. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, yeah. The problem with that is, dude, most men, including myself, don't always know how they feel. And secondly, articulating the mental transformation that you've just said is actually really difficult. Like, it's hard to put in context and in words what a transformation has done for you mentally, and not only what it's done for you, for everyone around you, but how you feel like really deep inside. I mean, that's a rabbit hole, when we start talking about the internal deep stuff about how you really feel about yourself when no one's around and no one's watching. Articulating that's really hard. So a way around this that because obviously on a consultation, if I said to a guy like, tell me how you're really feeling about yourself, it would be really generic, well, I'm not feeling that good, I'm not that confident. The easiest way is for me to get guys to score themselves on a scale of 1 to 10, like, with your shirt off, dude, like, how confident do you feel looking in the mirror? So even if you can't describe how you feel, it's easy to say, actually, it's a 2 out of 10, man. I'm just not liking stuff. But you're right, the camera can only capture such a minute part. But again, it's a good sell, isn't it? People will go on an Instagram grid, and of course, that physical change is going to be the thing that jumps out. Yeah. But I've always used fitness as the gateway into better mental health, and sounds like you're doing something similar with your crew.
Absolutely, yeah. Fitness is the start of it. Start with your body, because it's the easiest start, I think, especially for a lot of men. Like, because most men are not shy to hard work. Like, really, we'll have people who brand themselves lazy. I'm just lazy. No, but like, when the opportunity comes, if you have to work, you could probably put your hands into it. Most men are capable of graft. It's just hard to get that start. That's all. But they still have it in their minds of like, look, if we're going to do this thing that's physical and we're going to move our body this way, like, that's fairly appealing to a lot of men, because that's quite manly. It's quite, a masculine thing to move your body and get strong and get confident and fit. Like, that is a masculine thing. But it's, again, like, going back to what you said, it's a hard thing to sell mentally, because we're just so focused on the physical body at the minute that it's very difficult to get, even like, because everything in this head, we're taught from a young age, but big boys don't cry, don't show your emotions, don't be vulnerable. It's hard to do that when you're trying to express yourself. So I love the 1 to 10 thing, and that's exactly what I ask my guys as well, Alex, is how do you feel out of 10? What's your energy like? What's your confidence like? A 1 to 10. And the most average answer I get is 3 or 4. It's low. So that's saying something. If you're probably getting the same, probably getting below 5s. So people are living a life that's less than average.
Well, yeah, and then when you follow it up with, well, how long have you been feeling like that? Often people are like, I can't remember the last time I didn't feel like that. So it's a long time. But yeah, you've got to start somewhere. And what I love about the gym is, like, if they're training with you, for example, like, well, they don't have to think, which is great. They just have to turn up. Like, that's amazing. Like, you're going to tell them what to do. And even if I hand somebody a gym program, like, there's very little thought process to be done. It's like, right, I've got to do 3 sets of 10. Like, it's real clear, simple direction. And I think when you're feeling lost, a little bit of strong guidance like that can really help you through. Because if we start with mental health, it's like, well, fuck, like, where do we start with this? Well, we could journal, we could meditate, we could do a whole bunch of things, but exercise is so raw. Go and do this on this piece of paper. It will take you 30 minutes. Do it 3 times a week. It's prescription. And I think at the start, that's quite helpful. I know when I was feeling at that point where I was like, what the fuck do I do with myself? Like, that clear, direct leadership, mentorship, guidance, instruction was really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree, man. I agree.
So, dude, obviously, we're in this game because we've experienced some not very good times. We've kind of, lived a life that been lacking purpose. Probably, when we look back, done things we're not proud of, find ourselves in positions that we didn't like. What's your kind of like turning point, man? Like, because I know you used to like a drink, used to like all sorts of things. Same as myself. Like, what was your switch where you were like, you know what, that path isn't the one for me. This is the path that I'm going to start to go down.
Yeah. So to cut a very long story short, I talk about it a bit more depth than the book. But back when I was 19, I got a plumbing apprenticeship. I became a full-time plumber. That's my background. I was a plumber in construction for 8 years. During that time, I was hanging around with a lot of people who liked to party and liked to drink and liked to snort cocaine and liked to do all the wrong things, shall we say, on a weekend. And I became a weekend warrior for a long time. And it was cocaine, it was ecstasy, it was alcohol, it was women, it was smoking dope a lot as well in my earlier years. And that kind of lifestyle caught up with us a bit mentally. I didn't quite feel well. I didn't quite start to enjoy my job anymore. I didn't start to enjoy the person I was becoming. And through a lot of struggle, I was bullied a lot as a kid. I think I held on a lot of anger through that and didn't quite realize maybe I vented that through partying. And a particular moment of mine was literally I wanted to die, you know, and that's this premise of the book is I wanted to die. Now I show people how to live. And so the point of that was probably about 11, 12 years ago now. I was in a really toxic relationship. We both weren't right for each other. I wasn't a great person, and neither was she, to be fair. We're both ground on each other. We were together a couple of years, split up constantly, probably 7, 8, 9 times, like teenager stuff. You should have left after the first or second, you know, but you just kept getting back together. Oh, it'll be different this time. It'll be different this time. And before you know it, you're at the end of the 7th relationship with the same person. You know, but anyway, it got to a New Year's, my big moment, and we were walking home one night after we were both quite drunk. She was absolutely plastered, like embarrassingly drunk, causing a scene in the pub. She started to become quite aggressive outside, started to swing for us, hit us and stuff. And obviously, I'm a big strapping lad. She was a small woman. She couldn't hurt us physically, but she kept trying. By the time we got home, she'd fell over so much, I pushed her away. She'd ripped our clothes, she'd bruised our elbows, our shoes were a mess. She looked a mess, basically. She was covered in bruises and cuts and stuff from jumping on us and falling down and just pushing her away and stuff. And we started getting an argument upstairs, and she threatened to kill us, basically. And so I slapped her across the face, open-handed, and first time I've ever done anything like that, and I basically silenced the room. And then after that, the next morning, she couldn't remember anything. She went home. I get a phone call from the parents saying it looks like I've assaulted her, which wasn't the case. I openly admitted the slap across the face. I said I did slap her for her behaviour, but I didn't kick her, punch her. But I can see how it looked that way. Bruises over the body, ripped clothes, you know, covered in mud, all the rest. Like she actually looked a mess because of the travel home, you know. And then they took pictures and were like, we're going to go to the police with this because, you know, he clearly assaulted her. And that was really hard to deal with. Massively hard, considering I've never raised my hand to anybody in my life. Never been a violent person. Been angry, but never violent. And then word started getting around. People started saying, did you hear Luke assaulted his girlfriend on the New Year? Really beat her up bad. It's when you hear that through people who you don't really have any association with, and you're like, how did they know about that? And it's like, who else has been saying stuff? And that was really mentally hard to deal with, especially because I was feeling low at the time anyway. I wasn't massively confident, and it's hard when people believe stories about you, especially like that. Like, that's not just, oh, he's a bit of a dick. That's like, he's literally assaults women. That's hard to deal with, and I struggled mentally for ages. And obviously, I was still kind of taking drugs on a weekend and stuff at this point, and the lows of the alcohol, got very depressed. Didn't like my job after a while. The company started changing. And I think everything happens in life for us, you know. It was that kind of moment. I remember, I mean, lowest point driving through to Durham, which is about 20 odd miles from where I live. I used to drive a lot during that time after the breakup, like just to clear my head. I drove to this pharmacy. I went in the pharmacy. I looked at all the pills and I was like, right, looked at everything. Was like, right, what can I get to end this now? I'm fucking done. You know, that was my few seconds of wanting to leave this earth. Like I was ready to fucking die. And there was this little voice in my head, which just get out of this shop right now, get out of this place. I left, and I kind of, from that moment, I was like, it scared us really. I scared myself thinking I've got to this point where I want to end my own life. Like that's not a good place. So building up from there, stop taking as many drugs, not straight away. It wasn't a cold turkey thing. It was a journey, just like everything. Like, and I didn't stop drinking straight away, but I just stopped drinking as frequently. It went from sort of every week to fortnight to then once a month to then once every couple of months to then really cutting it back. Some of the people that I hung around with who took drugs, I stopped hanging around with them as much. Got people out of my life, started to read the positive books, started to listen to the positive YouTube videos. And I took my personal training course because it was something I wanted to do. I wanted out of my job where I was miserable. That was a big thing. I think being in a job where you are miserable just to pay bills. I mean, I had the Audi car, I had the mortgage. I had a decent, secure job with holiday pay, sick pay, flexible working hours. It was a decent company to work for, but I was fucking miserable. I was miserable with everything. So it was that accumulation of I hated my job, I was in a terrible relationship. Obviously, I'd made a lot of mistakes and choices that weren't good. I was unfaithful to her. She found out about it. Hands up, not a fucking saint. Don't claim to be. And made some decisions around those times which were like, I don't like where this is going. So it was kind of a gradual building process from there. I took my personal training qualification. I started reading the books, hanging around with different people, going to courses, met Paul Mort. That changed a lot. That was about 9 years ago. Met people like Chris Brown, who helped us with just starting the business, etc. Went on all different kinds of courses and mentorships and things like that, and learned along the way. And from there, I developed my own fitness training business, which was first outside as a boot camp, then into a private upstairs place in a pub, actually. And then now I've got my own fully functioning gym, which is on to this day, along with speaking gigs, a second book. And that's kind of been the journey from there, mate. If it's cutting a long story quite short, although not that short. But that's where it was for me. It was like, I didn't like the emotions I was experiencing. That was the biggest thing. I was very low, very sad, I don't like this. And I was very intoxicated around those times. I wasn't really intoxicated during the week. It was more a weekend thing. But every weekend getting smashed on a Saturday night, waking up Sunday, like midday, and not being able to feel right till Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're back on it on Friday. It's like you have 2 or 3 days in a week where you're getting stuff done and the rest is just fucked because of your choices on a weekend. And that was me for a long time in my 20s. And I had my last line of cocaine on my 30th birthday. That was my last. I'm now 36, turned 36 last month. And I haven't touched any cocaine since, which is great. Massive achievement 6 years later. And I don't feel like it at all. At all. And it's weird, Alex, because I was thinking about this, like, do you think the temptation's there? And I'm like, I think oddly, like, if I was in an environment where everybody was taking it, there'd be those thoughts. But I think I would be in a place now where I'd be like, nah, I'm leaving here, I'm off. I couldn't see us ever doing that. But it's weird because, again, that we talk about this a lot, environment and peer group. I don't really hang around with anybody now that does that stuff, nor would I choose to. But I think, like, in anybody's brain, there's always the temptation to go back and drink. Of course there is. But I know that it doesn't serve my bigger purpose. It doesn't serve this vision here, sorry. It doesn't serve this vision. For me to go back and take cocaine, would I ever be tempted? Not really. 6 years now. Why the fuck would I go back to it? It doesn't serve my vision, right? But there's always going to be that thing in your head of, oh, what if? But you need something like a vision to be so big that you can't do that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
This is so big now that drinking's like, nah, it's not for me anymore. This is so big that, like, cocaine, nah, it's not for me. It's not that I've geeked, oh my God, cocaine's bad. No, you shouldn't do it. No, I would never be like, oh, I'm so anti it, because I used to fucking do it. The temptation is always going to be there to go back to old behaviors. I think no matter what, you'd like the alcoholic's always in recovery, right? Like, I think maybe the party animal's always in recovery as well.
Well, look, it's there, man. Yeah, it's there. There's an opportunity for us to go back at any point we want to, but I think you've just nailed it when you say about the amount of responsibility that you've got. It just doesn't fit anymore. It just doesn't fit anymore. But I mean, it's very brave of you to kind of like tell that story, to admit those things and say what was happening and so on. But I think most men, if they actually really look at things, they probably work out that most of their biggest mistakes or biggest errors have come probably whilst they've been intoxicated. If you have a look at your worst moments in life or your biggest down points, they've either been through being intoxicated with alcohol, or you've then gone on to drink a lot of alcohol to deal with the situation. I know, and it sounds like, you were a similar age to what I was, about 28, 29, when that was kind of rearing its ugly head. Yeah, it's there, isn't it? And I've done a controversial post on this that will go out next week about alcohol, because right now, and again, this is hard to articulate. Right now, alcohol is actually making my life all right, enjoyable, pleasurable. I can enjoy it, socialize, use it. Wow,
nice.
Hasn't always been like, yeah, but it's a very, there's so many variables when it comes to alcohol selection. So many, and you'll probably know there's not just one or two things that you need to look at. It's a whole range of different things, from where you're currently at to how it impacts you, to what your mission is, to how you are, how you feel, how you interact with other people, your finances, your mood, your energy. The problem with booze is, I think, again, a lot of people don't realize what an impact it has on them, even at weekend drinking.
Yes.
So the Monday feeling, the Tuesday feeling. And again, by Friday, it's just so desperate to numb that feeling it's that vicious cycle that they get back on the booze again.
Yeah, I think what's beautiful about what you said though, mate, is you found what works for you, and you found how alcohol can enhance your life in a certain way, but it's all down to where you're at. And I personally, I just don't drink anymore because I never drank for the pleasure of it. I drank to get fucked up. That was my intention. So I think that's deep seated there. I would just drink to get fucked up. That was my thing, right? Like I wouldn't take drugs just a little bit. I would take a lot of drugs to get fucked up. I just wanted to get off my brain. And that goes a lot into people's lives as well, as they take this and they can't have just one or two, because one or two leads to ringing a dealer, getting more drugs. One or two leads to 8, 9, 10, 11 pints, full night out. You're out till early hours and it fucks up again. But there is people, and this is what I say, is because some people can't imagine having like going sober, teetotal. And I always say, like, it's great. It works great for me. But if you can work it like you have yourself, like sorted it to the point where you can use alcohol like a couple of beers with your takeaway on a Friday night, for example, or you have a bottle of wine on a Saturday and watch a movie together, and that's it. And that does you fine. And you enjoy it and you live a healthy lifestyle and you've got this balance that works for you. Amazing. You don't have to completely eliminate things. Some people do. Like I think I do, unless I have a couple of Baileys at Christmas, but then I'm done. That's it for me personally, but that's just the way I work. But I think you're great in what you're saying is like you found that balance, but it's also based on where you're at in your head as well. Like
and where I've been, yeah. So I believe that every man should take a period of abstinence from alcohol at some stage in his life or another. So that you can experience what it feels like not to have it, so that you can find things that you enjoy that don't involve alcohol, and then you can get it's like if you're searching for evidence for something, you need evidence for and against. So you would experience life with alcohol, which most people have, and they know its pros and they know its cons, but most people have never really been through a stage of 3 months without booze, and it's like, well, that waking up on a Sunday without a hangover, feeling fresh is pretty fucking cool, man. I still like that, and it doesn't always happen, but the majority of the time now I'm sober. Yeah. So it's quite refreshing. But like yourself with the drugs, it's like more important for me is who I go drinking with now. So mainly it's family now. Like we all like a good drink in the family, but it's a safe environment. It's not going to turn into a line of cocaine and a stripper. Do you know what I mean? It's or if it has, it's gone wildly wrong somewhere. But I've also got a mate that I know. If I go out with him, it's going to be a different story. Because look, if you offer me a shot of tequila now, I'm going to be, Luke, get the fuck out of here, man. I'm sober. It's 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm not having a fucking tequila. And that's the sober Alex talking there. But if me and you go out and have 4 beers and then you go, should we finish with a cheeky tequila? You're speaking to a completely different Alex.
Yes.
So I'll probably be like, oh, for fuck's sake, go on then. Fuck it. Let's go. So, I mean, it's okay planning ahead of time saying, well, I'm going to have 5 beers and I'm going to stop. But you'll know from your past experience whether the 5 beer Alex makes the same decisions as the 0 beer Alex.
Yes.
The answer is very rarely yes. So I think the abstinence period can teach you a lot about yourself. It can show you whether you can actually give it up. Because if you can't not drink for 90 days, what do you think that says? Is that addiction?
Potentially, or reliability, just habit, force a habit.
Yeah, but if you can't stop that habit, would we call it addiction? I don't know, but it shows you where you're at. If you can't go 90 days without booze, it shows you that you've got a dependency either on the booze or on something else that you're getting from it, whether that's the habitual cycle or there's something in there, isn't it, that needs to be addressed, in my opinion, if you want to change your life and you can't give up something for 90 days.
Yes. Yeah. I agree, mate. Absolutely. And it's the weird thing is, well, because I went after 30, I went totally cold turkey on the drugs. For 30th birthday was the last one. And then I more or less kind of stopped drinking for a whole year. I think after my 30th birthday, I think I actually stopped drinking for a whole year before I had a couple of Baileys at the Christmas. And I never felt clearer in the head. And I get asked now, do you not miss it? And I can openly admit I miss a lot of the fun times because there was some fucking hilarity when you're going out and getting absolutely off your head. And I still have memories of how much we laughed and what happened and the situations. And you're like, oh God. And you're crying with laughter when you talk about it now. And you're like, back in the day, it was great, wasn't it? But then you put your mind in where you are now and where you're going. And there needs to be some level of accountability to say, is this useful to my journey, to where I say I want to go? Like, I can't party like I used to and have this happen. I just can't. Like, I just literally can't. If I do now, maybe this is a problem or maybe this is a blessing, Alex. I don't know, but I get actually scared to experience a hangover. Like, I would be scared to wake up and be hungover now because I know how badly it used to be anyway. Like, now, being off it for so long, I think this is how I can have 2 Baileys on Christmas and go, I'm like, well, I don't want. And even then, I wake up more groggy and tired. I'm like, I am terrified of a hangover. Fucking terrified. But I think that maybe that's a blessing in disguise now. Maybe that's just a blessing now.
I hear you, man. They're horrible. No matter, even if I've had a cracking day on a Saturday and I've done absolutely nothing wrong, it's been a safe environment, I still wake up with an edge of feeling like I've done something wrong. And again, it must all be physiological because I haven't, and I know that. So mentally, I can talk myself into the fact that, Alex, you just had a good time. But it does something to my body that makes me feel like a piece of shit, paranoia, tired, sluggish. So you're right. Like, I get that what you've just said. That fear of the hangover because you don't feel in control of how you feel, what you're doing, what you're thinking, and it's a strange place. But you could argue that that's what alcohol does as well. Like it removes you from being in control of your feelings. But I think it's the complete opposite, isn't it? It's quite freeing being drunk. You don't really stress about the anxiety of the bank account or the stressful week that you've had. You let all that go. I think that's why it's so addictive, because for that short period of time where you've had your 4th pint, I mean, I'm not going to lie, dude. I'm not going to come on this and bullshit. I love that fucking feeling. I think,
it is
a beautiful feeling, man. Yeah.
Intoxication is a beautiful feeling. That's why it gets so addictive. It's beautiful, like whether that's intoxicated with love, alcohol, drugs, like the majority of it, food even. Like that initial intoxication feels fucking great. But the problem is when it's not used correctly and useful for our own situations. I think as well, to add to this, Alex, because what popped in my head there was I was having this discussion with a client whose goal is to go all year without alcohol, because she was quite, she was admitting that she had a little bit of a problem and that she struggled to give it up. She was drinking most nights and she cut down a lot. And she's like, look, I'd love to go a year. But the problem I'm having is when I go out, and if I go to a meal or I go to an event or I go to a lot of these work things, and people are like, are you not drinking? And it's hard. And she said, how do I handle that? And I said, well, there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is you can drive, obviously. But the other way is like tell people, hey, I can't have a drink because I'm on this challenge. And that people will always then ask, what challenge? They'll always be curious about it. And then respond with, well, the challenge is 1 year no beer or 1 year alcohol free. That's my challenge. And I'm already 6 weeks in. Once somebody hears that, there's a couple of ways they could respond, but more than likely, if like, obviously it's going to be mostly guys watching this, I know, more than likely people will be like, hey, good on you. More than likely. Or they'll say, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. But then you will have other people saying, boring. But that's just a reflection of how they feel. But the majority of the time, I would hazard a guess that the response to that, if you say, I'm on a challenge, and the challenge is this, and I'm already this far in, you probably get support. Or you get something like, good on you, I wish I could do that. Not for me. Something like that. That's much easier dealt with.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and something else I mentioned in this little write-up I was doing about booze. I think it's important that you find something that's more important than drinking. So like you've got your vision board behind you. That's clearly your reason not to go and get fucked up at the weekend. And I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make is just saying, I'm just going to stop drinking. You don't really have a plan around that. You don't have a substitute for what you're going to do with the time. You don't have any activities planned in the weekend. You think that you've got to sit on your couch and can't go out. You've got to find things to do, man. Otherwise, boredom's probably the strongest reason that you'll pick up a beer.
Absolutely, because it's the opposite of happiness. And what will alcohol do? Make you temporarily happy, like that. So it's not. Again, you're totally right, mate. People make this. I'm just going to stop drinking. I'm just going to stop sugar. I'm just going to cut out caffeine. I'm just going to stop smoking, and give them a couple of days, couple of weeks, they're back to it because it's deeply ingrained in their identity. So I always like to say, look, rather than thinking about stopping smoking, stopping drinking, for example, what are you going to start? Get excited for that start of something else that again is bigger. And where like if you're this is why physical exercise will always go back to this bit, right? You can't train solid, hard, intense for great results and go out and get fucked up on a weekend. Like they don't go together. One's got to give. So why not, rather than saying I'm going to stop drinking, saying I'm starting a healthy routine. I'm starting a 90-day challenge. I'm starting an 8-week transformation, or I'm starting a lifestyle this week where I'm starting to train on a weekend, for example. That's a huge one. Most of my guys now train on a Saturday morning. That's one of our busiest times in the gym is Saturday morning, and online on Zoom is Saturday, because people know they're held accountable on Friday night to getting a good night's sleep, and they'll treat themselves better over the weekend.
Yeah, I think it works well on a Friday night, like you say. I often find though a lot of the guys that I used to coach in the gym, they'd have a big blast on a Saturday morning, and then it would be their justification for.
Yes,
and you're right. It kind of solves the Friday night. But I love doing something on a Sunday morning that requires me not to be hungover as well. So yes. I use it well. Like, I like going to the gym now and getting a sauna or a workout. And just something, because like you say, if you look at your diary for a Sunday and there's absolutely fuck all planned, then you're pretty much saying, well, you know, me getting fucked up on this Saturday night, it's not really going to affect my Sunday. So I think planning things, whether this is family days out or just things for yourself, can be really useful, because the reason to not drink's got to be stronger than the reason to drink.
Huge, mate. My Sundays are we're up at about an hour later. We have a little bit of a lie-in, and we always, me and my partner always have a planning session every Sunday morning where we review and plan the week. It takes about an hour, so we'll get our journals and we'll plan the exciting week ahead. That's every Sunday, and then I'll go to hot yoga at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and that'll be one morning done. And then we can just the day's hours to do what we want, you know. So I even have a morning routine on a Sunday, which may sound crazy to some people. Like, do you not just stop? But like, yes, it's exciting to do that. Like chase what excites you, that's useful to your life. Like that's a big thing that I'm always looking forward to. You know, what's exciting to me that's useful. Because there's a lot of things. Getting fucked up's exciting, but it's not useful.
Listen, dude, there's one thing I would never do with a bad hangover, and that's hot yoga.
Yeah, imagine.
Honestly, dude, I've done some tough weight sessions in my time, some tough physical challenges, boxing matches, climb mountains. But hot yoga, no joke, mate, is up there. I think it's the psychology behind it as well, because the instructor, I don't know about how it works at your place, used to be like, for 90 minutes, I'm locking that door, you can't go out.
Oh, yeah, you can't go out. Yeah,
so you feel trapped, claustrophobic, sweating like a bitch. It's fucking hard. I'm terrible at yoga because I'm stiff as a brick, man. And like, there's these women like twice my age just like making it look easy, and there's me struggling like shit, man. It is so freaking hard, dude, that hot yoga stuff.
Yeah, well, I've done it. It was my 50th session last Sunday. So I'm getting pretty good at it now, but only because I've got turning up. That's it. That's the only reason. But at the start, yes, I was fucked.
Yeah, just to get through it. But my skin and everything started to really improve, man. But the only problem I had with the hot yoga was, well, it was like 20 minutes from my house, so like, and then it was an hour and a half, and then you can't go out anywhere after because you're just pissing the sweat, so you have to go home and get showered. So it's like taking up 2.5, 3 hours. But honestly, dude, for the whole day, I was a frigging mess. Like, I was fucked. Even after the sauna, I feel a bit tired all day, but doing hot yoga, no joke, Lou, I don't know how you manage it, but I was an absolute wreck for the whole day. I was knackered.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'll just enjoy the day. I'm calm and I'm flowing and I'm subtle. Yeah, but again, I'm used to it. So it's one of them things. I've done 50 now, so clearly I've done enough. You know, I've done one for every week of the year, really. I started about a year and a bit ago. And again, it's repetition, isn't it? Repetition.
It is. And I think you find what you enjoy and what suits you. So I feel after a good old sweaty leg session or a weight session, I feel great, man. I love it. I love that challenge in the gym. I still haven't lost that. I've been training for 15 years and I still haven't lost that feeling of satisfaction after a good old weight session. It's just not going anywhere. So I know I love it. It's my passion. It's my thing. But it's that daily tick box, isn't it? I've pushed myself today. I've got a little bit stronger today. I've done something healthy today. I've done something I can be proud of today. I think we all need those things as men where we feel like we've done something productive throughout the day and we're not just wasting our lives.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I answer a question in my journal every day. And it's if I getting to the end of the day, if I could just do one thing that would be positive to my progress, what would that one thing be? And sometimes it's lifting, sometimes it's just planning, sometimes it's making one phone call, sometimes it's drinking 2 liters of water. You know, that one thing every day to progress. Just again, tick box, like you say, moving the needle as well as another term, like just moving the needle, moving the tiny bits of progress. The progress is our happiness, right? Yeah. And that's what people fail to remember, is that if we're not progressing, we're not happy. So if you're not happy, think about where you're progressing. But a lot of the time is that we don't realize in what areas we are progressing because we're not tracking. We're just guesswork, isn't it? A lot of people don't write things down. So this is another topic. But the power in writing things down, mate, that's one thing that's massively helped me improve my mental health, is get more structured, more organized, more routined. And getting things down on paper rather than having it in your head. Because what's the phrase? When you're in your head, you're dead. When you get in your heart, you'll start. I like that one because it means like you're sort of compelled with this pull energy rather than having to. If you've got so much in your head, you feel like you need to force yourself and push yourself to do things. I actually wrote this in my journal this morning. I wrote flow, not force. Something that's been coming to us a little bit. I've always been fairly spiritual in a lot of ways, I think. I know that's a little bit of a standoff subject with a lot of guys, especially. One thing that's come to me recently is flow, not force. Like the idea of forcing yourself to do things is never useful long term. Admittedly, at first it'll feel like that, like getting started with the gym, getting started with water, bedtimes, good rituals, etc. But ultimately, you want to get to the point where, like, it's like not drinking. You know, sometimes you're gonna have to feel it's gonna like you're forcing yourself not to go out. You're forcing yourself not to drink, but ultimately, you want to feel like, actually, I'm flowing into this and I'm enjoying this not going out. I'm enjoying this getting to the gym early on a morning. I'm enjoying this drinking the water and feeling fresh. It needs to get to that point, but it doesn't get like that straight away, does it? We know this. Like, it takes that element of push first before we feel that pull. But I think one thing that's massively helped me get there is being more structured and organized with my routine, writing things down in advance, writing things down in terms of journaling back as well, what things have went well, what hasn't, 5 wins of the day at the end of every day, etc. Little things like that, which are very basic journal techniques. But I think some people, you'll agree, don't understand the power in the basics, the power in these simple things and what they can do for your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Everything does feel forced at first. But I want to come back. I want to talk about the spirituality thing in a minute. So pull me back to that because I can easily come off track. But I want to go back to something else you said first about you and your partner sitting down and doing the journaling together. So firstly, like, does your girlfriend drink? Because obviously that's going to be something that is quite helpful, I would assume.
She only drinks on special occasions. So she will have a glass of wine if we go to a nice restaurant. She will have a few cocktails if we go on holiday. She will, if she's going out with the ladies, which is once every 2 to 3 months, she'll have a few cocktails, but she'll come back by 10, 11 o'clock. We live very much a very similar lifestyle. I would say during the year, I drink once or twice. She might drink 5 or 6 times. That's the year. And I don't think I've only seen her drunk once, I think. Right. Which is obviously very useful for the life that we want to live. We're both quite congruent. She trains every day as well. She's a fitness coach. So that does help when we live the kind of same lifestyle as well.
Yeah, of course, man. And when you mentioned sitting down together, you know, planning your week, I mean, I understand that totally. But even though I understand it, a little part of me just jumped out and straight away thought 99% of guys are going to think that sounds like absolute bullshit. Like, I know the power of it. But still, and I've practiced it for years, but still it's quite a strange concept for a lot of people. The idea that you would sit down, even on your own, let alone with your partner, sit and plan what a good week looks like. It sounds like hard work. It sounds like effort. It sounds a bit airy-fairy. But fuck me, that can be the difference between living a really good life where you're both on the same page, supporting each other, making the most out of it versus having zero direction and just seeing what happens, right? How does that work? What do you guys do on that Sunday evening? How does it then go on to impact your relationship, what you do? Yeah, like, for the guys listening, tell them a little bit more about what's actually involved in that and what you will come out with as an outcome.
Absolutely, yeah. So I can't remember the phrase exactly, but if you don't plan in challenges that inspire you, you'll attract challenges that don't. I think that's it. And that kind of stuck with me, is that if we don't have a plan, and again, I say this all the time, this is not my phrase, but everyone listening will have heard the phrase, fail to plan to fail. it's a cliche. Oh yeah, I've heard that one before. You'll roll your eyes, but all the things that we really roll our eyes to are fucking true.
Most cliches are, bro. Most old cliches are fucking true.
Oh, and you're like, fucking hell, why haven't I actually implemented this in my life yet? And I've heard it for the past fucking 40 years. But that, again, that my dad used to say that actually, fail to plan, plan to fail. Because he used to write everything down. I think I got a lot of that from my dad, to be fair, because he was very meticulous planner, organizer. He was always using a diary. He was always drawing and writing things. He was a fire chief, so he was quite organized in things. He used to organize a lot of men and things like that. So I think I got a little bit of that from my dad. But in terms of structure, mate, and actual practicability, what we do, I have my own journal, which I've created through reading a lot of other people's journals and apply from coaches and mentors and things I've bought. And I've compiled a list, which is basically like a review of the week, asks you a few questions. What were your top 5 wins? What was your biggest lesson? What's the thing you've complained about most? What did you get done? What didn't you? You know? And then there's a little plan for the next week. And it's what are the top 3 priorities for your business this week. And then there's a weekly planner, which is all 7 days. And I put me, obviously, people say, what is it? Prioritize your schedule. Most people don't schedule their priorities. So a priority is training. A priority is eating food at the right time. So like lunch times are scheduled, like training times are scheduled. It's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, usually for my lifting at 3 p.m. And I have a training partner who trains with me. And those are the days, non-negotiable. As long as I'm not injured or ill, I'll not be training today because I'm run down with cold. I must rest. But like those are non-negotiables. So I'm scheduling in priorities over the week. And in terms of creating a great week, obviously you have your schedule and you have what needs to be done, etc., what meetings you might have, all the rest. But everything that I know by now what I need to do to have a great week in terms of training, sleeping well. Also, another, like it's having that list of non-negotiables, which like for me is training, it's eating well, it's getting to bed on time. It's also a date night. That's the thing for me and the missus is I've called them no phone date nights actually now, where I refuse to take my phone because I'll just end up checking it if I do. So I always plan that in, usually early week. It'll usually be a Friday night or a Saturday night. And I'll say date night at, and then the Monday or Tuesday, I'll book the table for the restaurant. I'll pay for the experience. I'll book the cinema tickets, whatever it may be. And I'll have that. But that is, I know that I'm doing that the following Friday or Saturday on the Sunday morning. So the Sunday mornings where we sit with our coffee, 3 cats, and we just chill for an hour with a cuppa before yoga. And then we just plan and review. And it's just literally, what do I need to do this week to make sure I have a great week, to make sure I'm productive, I'm focused, but I'm also excited. Like ensuring that every day has got some level of excitement. That's a huge thing. So in terms of practically what we do, that's basically it, mate. It's just like a journal planner that I've created with myself. It's a review of the last week, and a plan forward of the week.
But I guess for you, being the level you're at, that comes from the higher purpose, so that you've got a higher purpose, and then your weeks, actively getting closer to where you want to be, right?
So I have behind me here, I have this vision, which is a 5-year vision. It details 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. And it has the mantra on the bottom, make clear the vision, commit to the long game, trust in the process, and get excited for the day, which is just a thing that I'm kind of living by. I'm a long game, long-term thinker now, like in terms of life, thinking like I want to get to I'm the guy who thinks I want to get to my 70s and still be lifting weights, still be climbing mountains in my 80s. I have the idea that I'm probably going to live till 100, which is why I bought a chart where you mark off the weeks of the year that you live. And it's like a death chart kind of thing. It's a bit morbid, but it just gives you a visual reminder of how long you've got left. And you could buy one to 77, which is the average male life expectancy in the UK, or you could buy one to 100. And I bought one to the 100 because I thought, no, I don't want to be just expecting to live to 77. I want to go to at least 100. And
I think it's 4,000 weeks is 80 years old. 4,000 weeks. Yeah, that's what you got, man. And you can easily piss away a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 54 weeks. Easy.
Of course you can. Of course you can. Yeah.
It's interesting, dude, how like people, I'm very different to you, and I would really struggle to create that long term, but I think it's great. But I think even if you've got a vision for what you want a good week to look like, it's a good starting point. And everyone knows pretty much what they would like their day to look like, or at least They know what they don't want their day to look like. That's a great starting point. I don't want to feel like shit. I don't want to sit on my ass all day. I don't want to hate my fucking job. So that's always a great starting point. When we're talking about vision, obviously, look, me and you have been through something similar where we got to that stage where we were like, well, fucking hell, what is the point of life? So we both asked that question, right? Late 20s. And now it sounds like you've got a real clear indication of what your purpose is and why you're here. Like, when I look at that, like, that's quite a radical transformation, right? So, like, how, I know you've done a lot of things in that gap, and I know this is probably a complex answer, but like, how do you think you've gone from someone who was questioning what the purpose of life is, which is what most men will go through at some stage, like I think most people do, versus this is what life is about and this is what I'm going to make it? Because on one end, we're saying, you know, it's a bit nihilistic, isn't it? It's like, there's no point to this fucking life. Like, I'm wasting it away. I'm drinking. What's the fucking point? Two, here's my 5-year vision. They're so extreme, man. Like, what would you say the key is? Is it just tasting how shit things can be? Or do you think there's some other reason why you've headed down this path?
It's a good question. There's many ways I think this could be answered. I think there's a blend of so many things. Like, I understand what feeling in pain and depressed feels like, feeling useless, feeling weak, feeling pathetic, feeling powerless. Understand that. But I also know how feeling powerful, feeling confident, feeling the opposite of that is. But back in the day when I was a plumber and I, like, this kind of stuff, I probably would have turned my nose up to and been like, fucking what? That's a bit out there. Like, I fucking visions and spirituality and all that, you know. But along the way, I think one of my biggest things that I always say is so important is your attitude. Like, your attitude is everything. And the majority of people that you come across, and well, I understand, we're wired to be negative, we're wired to be pessimistic, we're wired to be cautious, because the brain just wants to keep us safe and survive, not to thrive and be successful and throw ourselves off cliffs and do all kinds of crazy shit that we might want to do. But I've maintained, and I think, again, the power in parenting and people for when we're growing up is that I learned this from my dad. My dad was always curious and he was always optimistic. He never really complained very much. And I think that I've kept that on throughout my life. I was always like wondering if there was some more. Always being like, oh, well, I'm going to try that. Don't turn your nose up at something straight away. Like, how quick are most men now to brand something shit or pointless? Oh, what's the point in that, man? That's fucking hairy-fairy bullshit, that, man. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do yoga? Fuck that. And then we're like, well, actually, if it could benefit your mental health, why wouldn't you? Yeah? Oh, why do I want to eat that fucking rabbit food? Like, it's fucking vegetables, mate. It'll help me get healthy. Yeah? Oh, fucking water. I don't need water, man. I want some beer. Like, just be a little bit more fucking optimistic, will you? I think, mate, it's the level of optimism. It's not being overly, like, positive. It's not about positive thinking, as it, like, that doesn't work, as we know, long term. It just makes you feel more sad, really, trying to think your way positive. But being curious and optimistic, I think that's been a huge part of my attitude for a long time. And I think if I could give one bit of advice, it would just be to be more curious and be more optimistic in new ways. I think because I've read so many books, I've coached with so many different coaches, I've been on different courses from around the world with so many different people, heard a variety of different things, that I've picked bits of stuff. Like, people listening to this might only agree with 10% of it, but if they take that 10% and apply it to their life, it'll have a massive impact, right? Then they might go and read this book, which is totally the opposite of what we're saying, but then think, oh, actually, that's going to really benefit my life. I'll take that chapter out of that book and apply that. And they make this like toolkit because of that optimistic attitude. Does that make sense?
It does. However, the optimism's probably been handed down to you, right? From your father, like you said, he was curious.
Yeah.
You were curious. I'm just thinking, wouldn't that be the same applied if he wasn't curious? Like, neither would you be. This is where it gets onto the debate for me of, like, you know, how much of how we behave is actually, you know, in a percentage term, how much of it is it on us versus what we've been handed, nature versus nurture kind of thing. Like, you know, how much can we change that deep wiring, and how much curiosity can we entertain and start bringing upon ourselves? I don't know, man. I don't know the answer to this, but I think you're right. I think parenting it does play a huge role. We know this. Environment plays a huge role. But yeah, your curiosity has clearly been handed down to you. And I'm just wondering whether it would have been different. Well, I know it would have been different, right? If you'd have been brought up, yeah. For good or for worse, I don't know. But
here's something else, mate. Like when I was about 10, my parents, I always knew them as very, very happy together, very happy, very in love. And then when I was 10, they split up, and my reaction to it was, okay, no problem. Can I go and play? When I was told, okay, no problem. A 10-year-old didn't know how to fucking deal with it. Right now, here's something interesting. Every relationship that I went into that failed, I went in with the mindset of it's probably going to end anyway. What's the point? Where did I get that from? My parents, because of what I seen. Even though there was some great things, it was nice. Like, it's unbelievable how many things subconsciously we pick up from parenting and from influence. And obviously, I got a lot from my peer group when I was growing up in school and stuff, and as a young adult in college and all that. And then who you hang around with ends up who you become. But again, it's a great conversation topic. And again, I don't think we can answer in terms of percentages what we do pick up. But it's little things like that which reminds us. Like you also pick up a lot of negative things as well as the positive, like unbelievable amount of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's some real smart people out there still debating this. So, you got two of my favorite people, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, saying the completely different things. Sam Harris is saying, look, you didn't ask for your parents, you didn't ask for the soul and the heart and the brain that you've been given. Not that you're fucked, but they're just saying a certain amount of you is you, and you can't change that. And then you've got other people, existentialists that would say, look, there might not be a purpose to this life, to this planet. So you therefore are the person who is in charge of creating it. Then you've got your nihilists who just say, well, there's no point to anything because everything's going to fucking end anyway. So you've got so many different extreme views of this, and you've got so many good debates, healthy debates. I still like to think, and again, this is not positivity, it's optimism, like you said. We still are in charge of an element, even if it's only small, of what we do with our time and our life. Like,
absolutely,
we're limited, and we're also in the luxurious position to direct it to a certain extent.
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, and again, a lot of people will not like that fact, and I think will play on not believing that I am who I am. This is the way I was brought up, all that stuff. When really, like, a lot of people just don't want to take responsibility. So they will say things like, I've always been this way. I've always been a smoker, or I've always drank, or it's the way, that's just what I was brought up to believe, So we'll always have that challenge, I think, in a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's an element, again, this is pulling in such different directions, but it makes sense to me. Like, you should be who you are. Like, you shouldn't try and be there is an element of, like, you are who you are, but there's also an element of you can make yourself better. Yes. So Jordan Peterson again refers to this. He says, if you've got an 18-year-old lad who hates his fucking life, is depressed and miserable, and you tell him that he's okay as he is, like, it's the last thing he wants to hear, because he then assumes that his whole entire life's going to pan out that way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You take the approach of, like, well, actually, you're not okay as who you are. You could be so much fucking more. You could do so much better. You could impact the people around you so much more. Like, that might offer some people some hope that actually, I have got a reason to change. I think that's half of it, especially the older you get, man. It's like 40, 50. Like, why bother now, man? Why bother working so hard to change something that I've done for the last 30, 40 years? And it's all I know. Smoking, drinking, watching TV, being in this marriage that I don't like, being in this job that I don't get any fulfillment from. It's all I fucking know. I'm 50 years old. What the fuck am I going to do now?
Yeah. Stuck in their ways. See so many people like this, don't we? Stuck in their ways.
It's hard, right? Like, I can understand that mindset, Luke. Like, I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying you can't change it, but I can understand that mindset when you're 50 years old and you think that that's it. Like, it's hard to ever convince yourself, I think, that it could be any different.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree, mate. Yeah.
So where does spirituality fit in with this then? Is this the key? Like, because if we can't convince ourselves logically that we can change, like, does it require this spirituality, this digger deep in, this soul work, this slowing down, this thinking about what life is really about, asking these tough questions? Why am I here? What is my job? Do you think that's a part to then get around some of these more obvious problems?
I think so. Yeah. I think, again, I think everyone in some way is spiritual. Like, there's nobody alive that doesn't like chilling out. Now, what somebody's idea is of chilling out is very different. Some people might like a bath with some music. Some people might like a walk in nature. Some people might like just to watch a movie or whatever. Like chilling out, like to be really relaxed, to be in a state where you're present, you're allowing life to, pass you by, not worrying about anything. That's a level of spirituality in itself. I think you could say that is some on a low level. That is spirituality. That's where you might get your good ideas. That's where you might get more creative, but to allow yourself to be in that place where you're not all go. And I think this is many men's problem is we're hustlers a lot of the time. We'll work, there's many men's purposes that work. They're always switched on. And then like we've talked about, it gets to a weekend and it's like, I need to, be charged up again. So we'll drink and we'll snort coke or whatever it may be. So that level of natural relaxation that doesn't involve necessarily any stimulants or intoxication of any kind, that I think that's a low level of, you could describe that as a low level of spirituality. But for me personally, I was just open to reading the books. I was open to trying some meditation. I was open to, walking more in nature. I was open to writing a journal that I'd never written before. And through those practices is where I got more questions, more answers, more breakthroughs, more levels of, oh, I didn't realize this about myself. Like at first, I think it's a pathway to discovery is what I'd say is spirituality. But there's so many different ways to get there that it doesn't have to be a fixed way. It doesn't have to be meditation. It doesn't have to be journaling. Yeah, there's several ways that people could get there. It could just literally, it could take more immersion into music, for example. Someone could love music so much and just be fully immersed into music for like an hour at a time. And when they come out, they're refreshed, to feel more present, to feel more part of themselves. They found they've got some ideas whilst they've been listening, That's just a basic example, mate. But to me, I think spirituality is a way through to better yourself, for sure, because the main point of spirituality, I guess, is to make yourself as present as you can and to not be always just doing something for the future, not always be worried about the past. You're focused in the moment, and you're focused most of the time on enjoying the moment through whatever means that is. And I think when we're in that place of joy, we get a lot more insights, we get a lot more discoveries, we get a lot more sense of calm and sense of maybe who we are or what we might need to be dealing with, etc. I'm hoping this makes sense. It makes sense in my head, and is it coming through?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's an interesting topic, spirituality, because again, I don't think it's very clear what it is. Like, to define spirituality is quite hard, isn't it? But obviously we've got some avid readers who listen to this. Would you say the most helpful books for you have been the more practical ones? So the Atomic Habits style books that tell you processes and systems to put into place to get a more organized and structured life, or do you feel like you've benefited more from the deeper work, the things that make you ask those tougher questions that make you look at your existence, not just your habits and your structures, but your real deep meaningful purposes for being here? Like, what would you say is kind of directed you the most? Because I think practical led me into a good place, and then I think Jeff, who used to mentor me, calls them like entry level books. Like, they're good to start with, Atomic Habits, but obviously the more you hang around self-development, the deeper you go, and you start reading about new and expansive things that might sound completely fucking out of this world to most people.
Yeah, and I think when I started with, again, the usual books. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Eat That Frog. All those kinds of books, which are great reads.
Yeah,
great reads. It's so valuable. It depends where you're at in the journey.
Of course.
For me, along the way as well, I think the biggest book that's impacted us the most has been Conversations with God. Now, I'm not religious. I don't believe in a high almighty God. I think as God as good orderly direction, as the highest self, like as it was like being a God yourself and treating everybody kind of the same, that is mine. But that I wouldn't have been ready for that at the start, mind. But as I got a little further along, that was the set of books. There's 4 of them now, which really opened my mind to new ways of thinking. Again, it's perspective. I've said this for years. Perspective is everything. What things mean to us, and how we see them. That's everything. And it started to open my mind a little bit more when deeper questions were asked, when you hear things said a different way that it's never been said before. Like having that conversation, even if it's just in words that you're thinking, excuse me, I've never ever heard anybody talk like this before. Like, that's a pathway to new understandings and to new questions as well. And a lot of people will just fob it off as a load of shit straight away. Like, but it depends where you're at in your journey, mate. For me now, it's definitely more of a mindset thing and more of a deep spirituality rather than practical. I think over the time I've gained some great practical insights and I'm open to every new upgrade I can get. But more so, I want to go deeper on questions and deeper on what the meaning to things is, etc. I think that works best for me now, where I'm currently at my journey.
Yeah.
But best book ever, Conversations with God. I
Yeah.
couldn't say another one, to be fair.
Yeah, I read that. I've got that in a collection behind me. I've read that a few years ago. I think yeah, it's an interesting read. Tough one. I can't quite remember what the gist of it, but I'll have to dive back into it. But there's only so many kind of time management books you can read before you get the gist of it. So I think it's just evolution. It's the next step, isn't it? But yeah, I remember going quite deep into the philosophy books. They were tough because they question everything, like everything, and you can so easily go down a rabbit hole. Like, and a lot of them say the same thing. Like, we don't know why the fuck we're here. We don't know how we got here. We don't know what's next for us. Right, so often these books can leave you a little bit puzzled, but so you got to be careful where you go with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think timing, some books will have you questioning everything. So you're right. I think it's where you're at. You only need what you need at that specific point, and I think organically you'll carve out a path. So one book usually leads you on to another, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Leads you on to another, and then that leads you on to another, and so on. So I've done a bit of a detour. I've come away from the philosophy free for a bit because, man, that was really testing me, man. I was starting to become a bit of a nihilist, thinking, "Fuck! Or what if these people are right? What if there is literally no purpose?" And it's quite a scary read, man. But something that's really helped me with the spirituality stuff is like the chart you're doing. Where you mark off what you think you might have left.
Yeah.
It's helped me push away any time wasting kind of activities, worry, anxieties, because I'm like, most of it won't matter because life is so fucking short. Yeah, it forces me to focus on the more important stuff in life, the more important people in my life as well. So I find that really useful. The guys inside the Better Man take the piss out of me all the time because I'm always talking about this. But I think if you ever want motivation or urgency, especially, like getting in tune with the fact that you're not going to be here for you're not here for long, is I think one of the best motivating factors to think, fuck it, let's have a go at this. Let's do this. Let's see this country. Let's ask this girl out. Let's fucking start this business, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, was it Gary Vaynerchuk who said, you asked him for motivation and he said, you're going to die?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I like that. It's simple, it's straight to the point, and it's very relevant.
Absolutely. Luke, where can people get hold of Supercharged?
So the book is imminent, the second book. It's in the final process and stages of final proofread and typesetting. So it's just getting put together now. So it should be out in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I've been told. It will be on Amazon, but you'll be able to get an audio copy from me. At the minute, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Luke John Harrison, just my name. You can also go to to overthinkingaudio.com. And there's a free copy of my previous book, my first book. It's a little dated now, but it's a fantastic entry-level self-development book on how to get a handle on your thoughts and with some specific actions and strategies. The new book is, well, I've got 6 years worth of development now in the new book, so it's very different. But from a starting point, it's a fantastic book. We're talking about for people to read at the start. It's definitely a great entry-level self-development book. The one that's coming out is a little bit more deep, a little bit more in depth on overall life, etc. So those are the places, mate. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Luke John Harrison, and overthinkingaudio.com.
Cool. Well, we can throw out links if you wish to direct people towards your pages and so on, mate, if that helps. And
yeah,
we can do that. It's been cool. I could chat to you for hours, really. I've just noticed the time. I've been doing an hour and 15.
Nice.
I could go much deeper on all those topics. So like I said to most guests who have interesting conversations, come back, we'll do this again. We'll go in a bit more detail on certain areas. But it's really refreshing, man, to talk about alcohol and women and so on and do a bit of guy talk. So again, I know these are the kind of things that most men will probably struggle with and want to hear conversations about because we all experience those things in life and they all cause us challenges, and they're all things we have to deal with in life. So thank you for being so open and honest and sharing your story, man. And yeah, I appreciate you, man. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Cool. Luke John Harrison, thank you, mate.
Okay, cheers, man.